Today, we're on the hunt for the story behind a legendary British band who got absolutely no love in America when they first hit. They were held hostage by derelict DJs and narrow-minded tastemakers at the time. It's hard to believe now, but these guys were in danger of fading into complete obscurity, at least on this side of the Atlantic. Could anything change your fortunes? Well, it just so happened that an upstart TV network who had a crazy idea to play music videos 24/7. And they kind of used this band as their guinea pig. Would the experiment work? We're going to find out next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember the first album that you bought with your very own money, this is your channel. Nostalgia all the time. Make sure to subscribe below right now. Click the notification bell so you never miss out on a video or our interviews. We also have a Patreon you're going to want to check out. There you'll find an additional catalog of exclusive content. You can even become an honorary producer to help us curate this music history and keep this a daily channel. So it's time for another installment of our show, Breakthrough. In this show, we break down songs, albums, or events that kicked open the door to an artist or band's career and really gave them the drive to achieve long-term success. In previous episodes, we've covered Boys Don't Cry by The Cure, West End Girls by the Pet Shop Boys, and Do You Believe in Love by Huey Lewis and the News. Now today, we're diving deep into Duran Duran's 1982 pop smash, Hungry Like the Wolf. For this period in Duran history, the cast includes the golden era lineup of Simon Le Bon, vocals, Nick Rhodes on keyboards, and the trio of Taylors, Andy on guitar, John on bass, and Roger on drums. Now, when Duran Duran released their second album, Rio, in May of 1982, it didn't take long for it to become a worldwide hit. It broke into the top of the charts in several countries. It went to number 3 in Finland, number 2 in the UK, and New Zealand, and it went to number 1 in Australia and Canada. Back on British soil, 3 of its singles went to top 10, and much of the rest of the world would follow suit. For these British sonic sophomores, everything was going according to plan. Everything except for one not-so-minor detail. All their efforts to break out in the US were a bust at this point. Back in 1981, when Duran Duran released their self-titled debut, Americans virtually ignored it. Not only did it fail to chart on the Billboard Top 100, it also failed to produce any Hot 100 singles. Even the internationally popular Girls on Film went nowhere. And you know, things didn't get any better with Rio. Once again, there was no chart action whatsoever, not for the album and not for the singles. But in retrospect, it's not hard to understand why. At the time, American top-of-the-chart taste sounded nothing like what Duran Duran was offering. They were true futurists. And honestly, for a while, a lot of FM radio stations just flat out refused to play anything new wave. And that was a shame because Duran Duran's Rio, it was and of course is a great album. It's even kind of ironic that Americans wanted nothing to do with it because the album was essentially a love letter to America. According to the band, it was inspired by the band's notorious 1981 US tour, which bore all the stereotypes of the rock fantasy: girls, cars, clubs, drugs, parties, excess. And Simon Le Bon later revealed that the album and its title track as well were metaphors for American glamour and the band's desperate desire to succeed there. Something special and you look like you're the best. With the benefit of hindsight, I'd say that Rio has definitely become one of the most representative albums of the 80s, if not the representative album of the 80s. With additional hit singles like Hungry Like the Wolf, My Own Way, and Save a Prayer, this album really helped introduce the 80s to the 80s. Woman, you want me, give me a sign. Got my own way. Save it till the morning after. Even sleeper cuts like Last Chance on the Stairway and Hold Back the Rain that kick out enough pop-centric flair to make you wonder why the band didn't milk a few more singles from the album. Really, from start to finish, Rio is a fantastic album. It would just take American audiences a little bit longer to figure that out.
I've had my last chance on the stairway.
So let's get into today's featured song, Hungry Like the Wolf. For being such an iconic poster child for 80s New Wave, the song actually didn't take that long to write. Said bassist John Taylor, Hungry Like the Wolf was written very quickly. It was a Saturday afternoon. We were in EMI's demo studio, and I think Nick and Andy were kind of messing around. Andy had the riff. Nick developed the sequence. Simon had a thing. Roger came in and played. When I came in, they'd been working for maybe 2 hours, and I just knew exactly what to play. The song was probably written by cocktail hour. When it was finished, the song was well deserving of a toast. I mean, the result was a punchy power pop composition that was about to take the world by storm, literally. Wolf opens with Nick's girlfriend giggling, one of the most iconic giggles in radio history. And then it flows seamlessly into Andy's rough-edged lead guitar and Nick's fizzy pop synth line. And from there, the song layers on hook after irresistible hook. They truly created a composition so deliriously catchy, there's just no denying it. It's a guaranteed 3-minute and 40-second sonic intermission from whatever you were already doing. I mean, throw in Simon's mildly risque lyrics, some more sensuous feminine sound effects, and, well, you could say that imaginations everywhere were sufficiently piqued. The lyrics themselves are an intentional parody of Little Red Riding Hood. You know, girl meets wolf, wolf wants girl, and goes to great lengths to get his paws on her. LeBon's version, of course, takes on a much more suggestive slant, telling his tale from the perspective of a guy on the prowl for a lover. Though at times the meaning of LeBon's lyrics aren't always exactly clear. The visual fragments he writes do seem to support the song's context. Simon actually cited The Doors' Jim Morrison as an influence for the lyrics as well. You know, he said he was the Lizard King, the animal spirit god. The idea meant a lot to me, and I tried to get into my music. While we were standing there wearing Anthony Price suits and lip gloss, there was a thriving, scaly thing inside of us. That image thing was just a decoy. But regardless of some of the song's more cryptic lyrics, singing along isn't a problem. Hungry Like the Wolf is simply a spectacular, masterful pop hit, a sing-along classic. Now, as we continue to break down this classic song, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses I wear all the time on this channel. Zenni had a lot of extras that you can add for less than the price of a vinyl record. Now, my favorite is their Blue Blocks feature that protects your eyes from digital blue light. We all come into contact with it daily from screens, looking at screens. My frequent headaches and migraines have decreased where they're only a couple a year. They used to be a couple a week. And it's been a big game changer for me. Check it out at Zenni.com. Hungry Like the Wolf would be Rio's second single, and it was released on May 4th, 1982 in the UK. Now, since Duran Duran had already built up a sizable following there in the wake of their first album, the song climbed all the way to number 5. It was released in the US about a month later, June 7th, 1982. But as I mentioned before, Americans weren't biting, and this had Duran's label EMI very worried. Now, by the end of the summer of '82, the band was still bombing in the States. Clearly, the problem wasn't the album, which was tearing its way through Europe and Australia and Japan. Rather, the problem was American tastes, or maybe I should say American tastemakers. The powers that be refused to give these new wave Brits a shot, and DJs wouldn't touch the record. Even EMI's LA counterparts were more interested in promoting their recent signing Missing Persons than Duran Duran. EMI's British owners Paul and Michael Barrow, they were desperate for a US hit, so they did their homework. Now, market research said at the time that US radio programmers wanted John Bonham-style drumming and AC/DC / Van Halen-style guitar. So the execs hatched a plan to give Duran's dance grooves a rock edge. Staff producer David Kirschenbaum was brought in to remix 4 tracks for American audiences. So the 4 that they remixed, Hungry Like the Wolf, Girls on Film, Hold Back the Rain, and My Own Way. The resulting mixes had punchier drums, they leveled up the guitars, and they scaled down the synthesizers. For Hungry Like the Wolf, the arrangement was tightened to accentuate the insanely catchy chorus and the do, refrain. The remix also intensified the lusty female moaning at the song's fade out. The label then released the tracks as a 12-inch EP called Carnival. Now, this was in late September of '82. And slowly, very slowly, American rock stations began playing the newly mixed Hungry Like the Wolf. In October, Carnival made it onto the Billboard chart. Came in at number 98 for a single week. It wasn't much, but hey, Duran Duran had finally charted in America. But as important as Carnival was for Duran Duran's American breakthrough, there was much more to come. In fact, for months, another part of the plan had been in play. And when it was done, it would turn the band's fortunes around for good. It all began with a promo that an upstart music video network absolutely hated. So going back to the end of the Rio sessions, Duran Duran had made a video for their song The Chauffeur, one of their best songs.
Sit beside me, so newly charming.
Its contents were in a similar vein as their previous video for Girls on Film, and let's just say it wasn't very family friendly. When the aforementioned label owner Paul Barrow played it for MTV programmer Les Garland, Garland said it was one of the worst videos that he'd ever seen. Look, he said, all the videos we see look alike. They're taped in the same studios in New York and LA with the same dancers, by the same directors. If you want to get your band on MTV, you got to give us something new, something exotic. Give us something in a jungle or on a mountain or Japan, and you'll get your band on MTV. So Barrow took the advice to heart, and soon after, he set up a shoot on the tropical isle Sri Lanka, just south of India, with gorgeous beaches, temple ruins, vibrant people, exotic bazaars, and low production costs to boot. It was the perfect setting. The great Russell Mulcahy was hired to direct, and he put together a plan to film 3 videos there. Hungry Like the Wolf, Save a Prayer, and Lonely in Your Nightmare. Okay, so for Hungry Like the Wolf, Russell put together a storyboard based on Simon's lyrics, I'm lost and I'm found, while also drawing on Raiders of the Lost Ark for inspiration. Great idea there, because it was the biggest blockbuster in 1981, the year before. Simon Le Bon, topped with a fedora, channeled his inner Indiana Jones to trek through sweltering jungles and crowded third world streets. Cobras, monkeys, elephants, tropical rivers, and a broken suspension bridge helped round out that adventure. But in true Duran Duran form, the imagery and subject matter was also overtly provocative, especially when Simon hunts for a girl in the jungle to sounds of panting and moaning. LeBon was actually a child actor, and his skills came in handy for this video. There's a real sense of urgency in his performance. The pursuit not only takes him not only through the jungle, but through city markets, across beaches, and even chest deep through a murky river. But LeBon isn't the only one on the hunt. Throughout the video, we follow the rest of the band who are likewise searching for Simon. And then there is one of the most stylized scenes from early 80s MTV. While Simon is in a cafe, he flips over a table, but it's shown in slow motion. I mean, maybe that sounds like a small thing now, but for a music video, something like that had not been done before. After the video was finished, MTV program director Les Garland and his staff were back in New York screening new videos. Suddenly, another MTV employee came crashing into their meeting. "You've got to see this video that's just come in." As Garland watched Hungry Like the Wolf, he was blown away. The band, who had months before shown him something that he thought was truly awful, had just gone from worst to first. He proclaimed Wolf the best video that he'd ever seen. It was immediately plugged into constant rotation. It was featured prominently, and neither band nor network would really ever be the same again. For 3 incredible months at the close of 1982, MTV and Duran Duran, a symbiotic force feeding off of each other's success. And as MTV's audience grew, music store owners sold record after record for the once shunned British outfit. Fans likewise hijacked the phone lines, repeatedly requesting Hungry Like the Wolf, basically forcing DJs to play the song. And as a result, the track became a US airwave staple. All this exposure prompted a stateside reissue of the single, and by the 3rd of December, 82, Hungry Like the Wolf climbed all the way to number 3 on the Hot 100. It should have been a number 1 hit. Let's be honest. Let's be clear. But it did go to number 1 on the top rock tracks chart. It claimed the crown around the same time. This was really the first song ever to become a hit single thanks to the exposure from MTV. They were just linked together. Said John Taylor, "We had been in Sri Lanka just 8 days, but we had filmed iconic footage that would define Duran Duran for a generation." There is no doubt that the work we did in Sri Lanka created a huge shift in the way we were perceived by the global music buying public. We were no longer just an urban club band, famous for our sharp clothes and snazzy haircuts. We were, thanks to that video, transformed. Very true. At the close of 1982, their fortunes had completely changed. Duran Duran was in New York. They were starring in MTV's New Year's Eve rock and roll ball. The band played for an hour to a full house and an estimated 8 million television viewers. It was the channel's highest rating show up to that point.
Come on, let's see you move!
As 1983 kicked into gear, it was clear that Americans were under heavy fire. There was no holding back the force of the second British invasion, and Duran Duran was leading the charge. So with Hungry Like the Wolf in full swing, their reissued album Rio, that was also on the rise. It climbed to number 6 on the March 12, 1983 chart, the album chart. It would set up shop there for a staggering 129 weeks. That's 2.5 years. On April 26, 1983, Rio was certified platinum in the US, and in time it would double that and keep going from there. The singles Rio and Is There Something I Should Know, it would come in at number 14 and number 4 respectively.
Maybe next year, maybe no go.
Girls on Film also became popular after receiving heavy airplay on MTV in 83. After Hungry Like the Wolf, Duran Duran had another 10 top 10 US hits, including 2 chart toppers, The Reflex in 84 and A View to a Kill in 85. So much for early 80s American tastemakers. The Hungry Like Like the Wolf rebrand, it would reinvent what it meant to be a pop star in the 80s. I mean, it was rock that you could dance to and look at as well. The band built an undeniable legacy as one of the greatest pop rock bands to ever hit the airwaves or TV screens for that matter. Since its release, Hungry Like the Wolf has appeared in a long list of movies and TV shows, including Daria in 2000, King of the Hill in 2001, Big Fat Liar in 2002, The Shield in 2005, Medium in 2007.
You feel my heat, I'm just a moment behind. And I'm hungry like the wolf.
The Simpsons in 2008.
And I'm hungry like the wolf.
My Name is Earl in 2008, Chuck and Psych in 2009. Alpha and Omega, Take Me Home Tonight, Lethal Weapon, the TV series, Teen Wolf, the Red Sea Driving Resort. I mean, it just goes on and on. Actually, we'd be here for a long time if I listed them all. It's also been covered by Less Than Jake. That was in 95. Real Big Fish did a version in 97. The Cast of Glee did in 2012. Sample in Hey Everybody by 5 Seconds of Summer in 2015. It was covered by Muse and Incubus as well. Duran Duran scaled the globe from 1982 on. From the largest cities to the smallest of towns, they stirred up my little town of Blackfoot, Idaho. Everybody was clamoring for their records. They're sold out everywhere. I remember sneaking into my sister's room to steal her Rio LP and her Tiger Beat magazine because they were on the cover. Articles about them, I could read about them. I think I've mentioned this before, but I remember that my older sister, she had the posters of them sprawled all across her wall. And I snuck into her room and I unpinned one of them and I took one with me to this barber that my mom took me to, for my summer haircut. Usually a flat top. I mean, the barber's nickname was Hatchet Jack for very good reason. If you went to him, you were going to get a flat top, a bowl cut, or a buzz cut. I mean, that was it. I can still remember the look on this old guy's face when I showed him this picture of Duran Duran. I pointed to Simon and said, "Can you style my hair like this?" He looked at me like I had lobsters crawling out of my ears. And then he says to me, "Son, what the hell does style your hair mean?" I'm doing his voice. I said, cut it to look exactly like this guy. They're my favorite band. And then he stared me down for like 10 seconds. It was really uncomfortable. And he said, "Son, why in the Sam Hill would you ever want to look like that guy?" That was just par for the course back in Idaho in the 80s. It just proves my point, though, that Duran Duran was the biggest band in the world at that time, and they did it without social media. Just a great song with an exotic music video. Leave us a comment about Duran Duran and Hungry Like the Wolf. Where did you first discover it? Was it MTV? Was it on the radio? Let us know in the comments below. Let's have a great Duran Duran discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to check out our episode on their early 90s smash, Ordinary World. About 10 years after they hit it, they came back with a huge song, huge comeback. Check that out. Don't forget to subscribe below. That way you'll never miss out on our daily videos. Check us out on Patreon as well. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Talk to you soon.